Welcome to the Joe Watt podcast. I am Joe Vendramini from the Range Cattle Research and Education Center, and today our guest is Mr. Alan Smith from the Southern Accent Ranch. Alan, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for being here, Joe. We're sure glad you came to the ranch. You're very welcome being here.
And Alan, I would like to ask you please to give us some background information about yourself and your operation.
Joe, we're purebred Brangus breeders. We've been breeding Brangus for 23 years now. My wife Nikki and I started this thing with 5 heifers. We've really been data driven from the first day. We spend days weighing babies, and I'm talking about catching a calf, standing on a scale, getting an actual birth weight within 24 hours. 205-day weights are very important to us, and also our weaning and ultrasound data. Your cattle are only as good as the data you take, so real data means a lot to us, and we've spent a lot of years doing that. We've also had an extensive AI program for the 20-something years. About 75 to 80% of our cattle every year are AI sired cattle. So that's our purebred herd in a nutshell, Joe.
Okay. And Alan, I would like you please to share with us how you differentiate the numbers and the visual of the bulls and how you balance those traits on your purebred bulls.
Joe, in the early years, we just rode out in the pasture. We looked at our data. We priced bulls just by looking. Today, we now have a computer program that we have values with certain values of the cattle. So we put in all their EPDs, all their ultrasound data. The computer gives us a price on these bulls with the program we have. Now, that price doesn't always fit the bulls. So we go out in the pasture. Once we've got a price, we go out in the pasture, and this bull on paper may be worth $4,000, but phenotypically, he may not look that price. Then again, we may have a bull that only on paper prices for $3,000, but phenotypically, he's a really good-looking bull. So we use the computer, we use visual, and we also use the traits that most of our cattlemen here would like. They like low birth weight calves, and they like high weaning weights, because the majority of our our bull buyers are going to be selling calves at weaning. So those are the two traits we put the most value on when we price our bulls on the computer.
And Alan, so you just mentioned about the weaning weights and yearling weights. So you think that your buyers, when they come here, that's the main focus. They want to grow.
We have two different kind of buyers. We have buyers that want to see data. They look at the weaning weights, and some of them even look at yearling weights, and birth weights obviously is always really big. But we have some of these buyers that are more aggressive, that maintain some ownership of some calves. And then we have those same buyers that don't maintain ownership, but sell wean calves by the semi-loads, and we all know the more those calves weigh at weaning, that 205-day average weight, they bring more money. Then we have our old-time cattle people that are just looking at phenotype. They really don't understand EPDs, and we really try to explain that. And we have a system where to not try to push an EPD on somebody, we have a system where we tell them how they rank in the breed. So the bull they're looking at may rank in the 30% of the Brangus breed for a certain trait, or the 10%, or he may be in the bottom 90%. So we use that to sell bulls, to explain to people that don't understand the EPDs that well.
And do you believe that when you focus too much on that weaning weight and yearling weight, so for somebody that is retaining ownership and developing heifers, let's say, is that, do you think, affecting the size of the cow herd?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. A lot of those people are the more aggressive guys are really looking at, and I said aggressive, I meant progressive. The more progressive guys are looking at also some milk numbers and some total maternal and things like that. So they're retaining those calves And I tell these buyers the best way to build your cow herd up is to buy the best bull you can buy. Now, if you're not retaining heifers, then you're looking for higher weights, weaning weights, and yearling weights. If you're retaining heifers and trying and make your cow herd better, you need to look farther down the road. Total maternal, calving direct, milk numbers. Those numbers mean a lot to those replacement heifers. So, and as we all know, a lot of people don't look at it, but scrotal size on a bull, if you're retaining heifers, those larger scrotal size bulls, the heifers that are sired by that bull are going to be more fertile females than the smaller scrotal bulls. We know that for a fact.
And Alan, can you tell us a little bit about your low birth weight program?
You know, we were blessed in 2011. We purchased a bull called Catawba Warrior, and at that year he was the top AI sire in the Brangus breed. There were more calves registered out of that bull than any bull. He was a low birth weight bull with high growth numbers, high yearling weight, weaning weights, big milk numbers, big total maternal. So he really made a mark in our herd, and we raised a bull. We call him 419T. He is a Sundance son out of a Brightside Picasso daughter. Today he's number 5 in the breed for low birth weight out of about 3,000 bulls in the Brangus breed. His calves are small, tiny. My wife calls them little black packages. They're little bitty teddy bear looking calves at 65 pounds, and we wean them at 650 at an average 205-day weight. We have crossed these two genetics and are building some bulls that are 3/4 brothers that are all low birth weight, and they are really doing a job here at the ranch. We are just so blessed to have this cross, and they are spot the accuracy on these calves with our years of data. We can guarantee these cattle are going to give you low birth weight. We love to sell them to people that have used other breeds and have never used a Brangus on their heifers, and these Brangus bulls will give you low birth weight calves, guaranteed.
And Alan, there is a conversation among the breeders, and most of the breeds, but Brangus is one of them, that it's a challenge to keep the roses in the herd, to get new blood and to get that going. So, what is your thought?
You know, we have seen that, and when you keep using the same genetics over and over, we do see we don't get the heterosis. So we have gone out and we're using some new blood right now. We just semen tested a group of bulls a few days ago with some of the new genetics we brought into the herd, and very pleased with the weights we're getting. And we all have to go out and find new genetics. That's a thing that we have found here in 20-something years of breeding Brangus. We have to find new genetics that are going to give us that heterosis that we need.
And then new genetics, you mean you need to go out of state or even out of the country? I don't know.
Joe, yeah, out of state, and I shouldn't say out of state. Anywhere that there's bloodlines, it's not in your herd. We're using a bull called Something Special now, 889Y2, that's really giving us some great cattle. We're using a bull that came from Salico Valley, that Atlanta bull that's really doing good. We had none of those genetics in the herd. And when you start blending some newer genetics with older genetics, it's as a good friend of mine, and a veterinarian in Texas, told me, we call it a genetic explosion. When you see that happen in the cow herd, you realize things are working. When those weaning weights go over 700 pounds and those yearling weights go to 1350, you know you've done something right when you brought those genetics into the herd.
And do you believe that there is a necessity of creating a Brangus from scratch again with the Brahman and Angus, and then having that new animal in the herd?
And we have a bull here now that we bought that's a first generation that's really got. In fact, we're keeping one of his offspring this year that's 16 months old, who's got great EPDs and great growth data. I think everybody in the Brangus breed now should be looking. Now, I'm not saying get rid of all your second, third, and fourth generation animals, your bulls, but I think it would really be great to bring in at least one or two first generation animals and look at what's going on with those calves. And you're going to see some, as I just said, genetic explosion. It's something that will pop out. You're going to see it. Absolutely.
And what is your opinion about the Ultra Blacks?
Uh, Joe, we tried some Ultra Blacks here, and we're not raising any Ultra Blacks, but the Ultra Blacks have their place in the world. Here in South Florida, where I'm at, we need that 3H Brahman influence. We do. Now, when you go north of I-10 and back that way, that takes some of the ear out. They don't have the summers we have, the water, the mosquitoes, all the bugs, everything we deal with. That 3H Brahman influence really makes these cattle hardy. And it didn't work for me, but it will work. It is working. We know that. We see that. Just north of South Florida. I'm breeding for a South Florida market more than a North Florida, South Georgia, South Alabama. And those Ultra Blacks will work there. And there's some first generations out there now that are beautiful cattle. There's some really good cattle out there.
So, do you think that the Ultra Blacks are giving us a little better carcass than the Brangus, or what do you think is the main advantage?
I think it's market value. I think when you take a little bit of that ear out, especially up north of us down here, those cattle are bringing maybe a little bit more money. Those calves a little less ear. We raised some cattle down here that would look like an Ultra Black. We have some clean made Brangus that you wouldn't know weren't Ultra Blacks. But really and truly, there's a market for them, and there's a lot of people capitalizing. We're just a little far south for that, I think.
Okay.
Joe, one thing I want to tell you we're doing here, talking about heterosis, we've started AI in some of our registered Brangus cows to some registered Brayford bulls. So we're raising some black baldies that are registered, have registration papers, we have data on, that are half Brayford, half Brangus, that are really working out. This is our third set of calves, and they are working out. So for heterosis for us, in our commercial, we have a commercial herd of Brayford Brangus cross, but now I'm raising some 50-50. We're making sure it's 50% Brayford, 50% Brangus, and that's really working for us also.
So, and you are marketing the F1 bulls?
That is correct. We have started with, this is our second year to have F1 half Brayford, half Brangus black baldy bulls for sale.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, they're great cattle. We're really tickled with them.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So, Alan, we are going towards the end of our interview here. Before we finish, I ask some of the people that participate in the podcast, what is their hobby? What do they like to do on their extra time? A lot of people just tell me that they don't have an extra time.
Well, we enjoy fishing. My wife and I fish. We enjoy being on the water. I used to hunt a lot. I don't have the time anymore. But our hobby now is being on the boat and being out in the water, and that's where we're most at ease. That's our vacation, even just to go out on Lake Okeechobee or down in the Keys fishing. That's what we love to do.
Okay. Alan, I would like to thank you again for participating in the podcast. I am Joe Vendramini.
Joe what?